My name is Andrew Gold, and this is my speech. Sitting on the patio, surrounded by friends and loved ones, is a summer tradition for many Americans. While enjoying the festivities, many people don't notice the details that come into pouring a patio. As someone who has worked with concrete for the last 10 years, I can attest to the fact that pouring concrete is one of the easiest tasks that Mason can do. The first step of pouring concrete is to determine the size, shape, and the placement of the patio, or the concrete that you need poured. All this depends on what you intend to do with it. Do you need a concrete deck poured for a pool, a shed, or just for normal patio furniture? You also need to determine the slope and the depth. If the ground you are pouring on is relatively flat, then this makes things easier. If the area lies on a hill, then it will be quite a drastic drop from the concrete to the ground underneath. Now that you've determined what you are pouring and how big it will be, it is time to start digging. Digging is one of the most tiresome tasks of pouring concrete. We often use loaders and mini bobcats to help us dig when the job is particularly large. Once the digging is done, you need to set the forms. The form is what holds the concrete in place. They essentially create the boundaries in which the concrete stays. You must be sure to reinforce these forms with stakes in order to prevent them from bending under the weight of the concrete. Once the forms are set, it is important to bring in rock to grade with in order to allow for drainage and a good solid base. Also, rock is cheaper than concrete, so it is economical. If you have 6 inches of a void that needs to be filled, it's cheaper to place 2 inches of rock and 4 inches of concrete instead of just 6 inches of concrete. Once the rock is in place, it is compacted, and then it is time for the rebar. Rebar is steel reinforcement, which helps hold the concrete together in order to prevent cracking, heaving, and or settling. When putting the rebar in place, you should space it 2 to 3 feet apart in both directions, parallel and perpendicular to the house. Once all the prep work is done, now it is time to order the concrete. Based on the shape, the size, and the depth of the pour. Concrete comes in a variety of colors. You can add textures or finishes to the concrete. Now comes the fun part, pouring the concrete. The concrete is delivered by a concrete truck, and it is important that the concrete is wet enough in order to be able to place it and smooth it. If the concrete is not wet enough, then it can dry too quickly and crack. You must edge the concrete in order to separate it from the forms. Edging involves running a tool along the border, which creates a space between the concrete and the forms. Once the concrete has hardened slightly, it is time to cut control joints in the patio. The joints help to promote the cracking within the joints. Unfortunately, the only guarantee is that concrete will crack. So the only thing that you can do is to try to control where these cracks happen. Once that is complete, it is time to broom it. By brooming it, it is exactly like it sounds. You pull a broom over the semi-dry concrete with the purpose of creating a texture to prevent the people that are walking on it from slipping. And this concludes the pouring process. The final step is spraying the patio with an acrylic curing compound, which helps in the curing process. The spray prevents the concrete from setting up too fast and cracking. This process is exclusive to those who do concrete. The highway department uses water and burlap when they do paving, but they don't care about the appearance of the final product. As you can surmise from the information above, pouring a patio is complex and backbreaking work. Only someone with lots of experience should do this task. Not only is concrete work physically taxing, it can also be mentally challenging, because each step of the process is vital to the outcome of the desired effect. Missing just one detail can ruin a patio. So next time you are at a family barbecue on the shaded patio, think about all the hard work that went into that, just that simple slab of concrete.